Welcome Scorpio, it's your in-depth monthly forecast for November 2025. I'm going to give you some standout themes of the month to begin with, then share on screen your event chart right at the beginning of November, which always provides an influential backdrop for the whole month. I'll then go through each of the key influences in detail, including a wonderful new moon in your sign, which you can relate to in terms of your ascendant, sun, or the moon. Thank you for joining me, astrologer Patrick Arundell, and welcome. I have found that over 50% of people who regularly watch my videos are not subscribers. If that's you, please help the channel to continue to thrive and do so now. But please also click or tap on the bell notification symbol. You can also watch your year 2026 deep dive Scorpio forecast by clicking on the link beneath this video. Discover what the upcoming year holds in store for you. So as we come into this month, the key information for you is that Sun is in your sign, but also your traditional ruler of Mars. And the intriguing thing is that Mars, at the very start of this month, forges a stunning grand water trine with Jupiter, the planet of possibilities, and Saturn, the planet of structure. And they're both located in water signs like Mars. And that gives you an opportunity to be very meaningful in your moves, because obviously Mars can be about thrust, action, assertion. When it's in our own sign, it's encouraging us to seize the moment. Jupiter in your 9th house is about expansion, and it's also exalted in the sign of Cancer. Saturn, of course, in the 5th house is not necessarily a bunch of laughs, but it's suggesting if you're doing something where you're using that action and thrust of Mars together with a plan and a philosophy to widen your approach with Jupiter's help, Saturn can glue it all together and mean that whatever energies and creativity that you're investing, it stands a chance of making progress. So that's the big picture at the very start of the month. What does the event chart tell us? So just before I share your chart on the screen at the start of the month, if you've yet to order your unique personal forecast for year 2026, you can do so now and get the rest of this year free. You'll also get your life roadmap reports, which gives searing insights into the patterns that are played out in your life journey so far, and how you can use a greater knowledge of that to steer your future moves along with those forecast transits. And you'll get your free gift of your general love and Chinese and Indian written forecasts for the year ahead, but the overall package is 30% off. Please see below for more. Well, on the screen now is yours. You can see the sun at 8:49 in your sign, but look at the position of the moon in your sister water sign of Pisces. It's at 6:52, so they're in a trine. When the sun and the moon are well aligned, and the trine is very enabling, that's terrific. You can see also the north node is there with the moon. Saturn and Neptune forging that great link to Mars in your sign, and also back to Jupiter. Jupiter is the ruler of the sign of Pisces. So what we've got is a mutual receptivity there, and that's very, very helpful. I feel that that's giving you a chance to move forwards dynamically. But let's just be mindful also of Venus. Venus is going to be entering your sign on the 6th, and that is going to give you a terrific opportunity to refresh your personal appearance. But in the 12th house, it suggests if you're really focusing on what you want to do as an individual, if a relationship isn't quite working for you, you may be thinking very carefully about what you want to do, especially with Saturn in your 5th house of romance. If you're not really sure of someone, if issues around trust, for example, or you're thinking a lot about someone from your past, even an old flame, or if you're not in a relationship but you're not quite sure if you want to be in a relationship, some of those things may be showing up as well. You can also see that Mercury, the planet of quick communication and precision, is in your 2nd house of everyday money, but in an opposition with Uranus in the 8th house of longer term finances. So you might be a little bit impulsive. Now they're linking back to Pluto in your 4th house. So if you do spend some money, it could be right at the start of the month on some kind of labour saving or domestic appliance, which helps to make life a little bit easier as you come into the month. So that's the big picture as we start November, Scorpio. But having the sun in our sign is such a gift, because the sun is at the core of our very existence. And on the 20th, you are going to have that quite amazing new moon in Scorpio. Amazing because it's linking with Jupiter and Saturn. But remember, Jupiter and Saturn are linking with your ruler at the start of this month. A new moon in our own sign is very much about manifesting our individual talent, flair, creativity, but also being single-minded. So even if you're not quite sure about your romantic situation, if there are other things you want to go for at the start of this month, your drive can be terrific. Now Mars is going to be moving out of your sign on the 4th and into Sagittarius. Over the next 6 or 7 weeks, whatever you desire, you're going to go for it in a very direct way. Can give you a greater motivation to improve your finances, but equally Mars in the 2nd house can give us a desire to just enjoy creature comforts. But it too is going to clash with Uranus at the very start of this month, after it emerges from that fantastic triumphant with Jupiter and Saturn. So that more impulsive part of your situation, I'm not saying of your nature, you may be someone who's very disciplined about marshalling your resources, but even if you are, you could find yourself suddenly wanting something very quickly, but it could also be a connection to someone who just has some kind of mesmeric impact on you. They may have a sort of aura about them, not unlike your own, that just suddenly is very exciting. It may be brief, but it's significant. On the 5th, we have a full moon. It's in your opposite sign. There may be someone around you who thinks you've been too single-minded and feels a bit left out. Is it because of that Venus in the 12th house? They may tell you over the next couple of weeks, but I think the air could be cleared if that's what you want, particularly with Venus arriving in your sign on the 6th. Because if you have been doing some soul searching, now you'll move into the moment. But, ironically, Venus does clash with your modern ruler, Pluto. What you want and desire, which I think, as I mentioned, can be strong this month as the month begins, with Venus going at right angles with Pluto in the 4th house, if you are thinking about a new approach, particularly around where you live or how you live there, I wouldn't rush it, but I also wouldn't try to over-persuade someone who doesn't quite get where you're coming from, because the full moon could throw up a situation where someone isn't quite as aligned with your ideas, not necessarily in a very hostile way, but there may be a bit of a challenge. Now Uranus does invert back into your sector of relationships on the 8th. It just depends where you have planets. If you have them quite late in Scorpio, or you have them elsewhere in your chart, in the latter part of any fixed sign, so that would be Taurus, Leo, Scorpio itself, and also Aquarius, you may feel that Uranus retrograde back into Taurus through to the end of April, and it could make things quite unsteady and quite changeable. Is that a bad thing? It depends. You're a fixed sign. But I feel with Scorpios, when things do change with you, they tend to change quite dramatically. It's kind of an all-in with you. If you're born earlier in the journey of Scorpio, you may feel it a little bit, but if you've been really discovering over the last 7 years where to set your boundaries, who you feel really attracted to, but also getting much clearer about who you don't, Uranus will help to protect you about what to do. On the 9th, Mercury goes retrograde in that 2nd house. Through to the 19th, when it inverts back into your sign, that period I would be very precise. So if you're buying some gifts online for Christmas, for example, make sure that you use a portal which gives you recompense if something goes wrong. That's really important. And, you know, if you are buying anything on a retail basis, make sure you keep your receipt. But it also gives you the chance to think about your values. Mercury is about how we think and discuss. However, on the 11th, Jupiter does go retrograde for you in your sister water sign of Cancer. It is about knowledge, perhaps the more healing, more nurturing knowledge that comes from the host Cancer. Jupiter rules traditionally Pisces. I feel a lot of people are focused on the Jupiter rulership of Sagittarius. It's big, it's proud, it's loud, very, very much to do with good fortune. But that Piscean energy, very strong. And of course, there's a mutual receptivity with the triplicity of Scorpio to Pisces and then back to Cancer. So what will that mean over its 4-month retrograde for you? Well, I think if you were wanting, for example, to apply for a course, learn a foreign language, move overseas, do some research on perhaps investments to do with international property, those kind of things, yeah, maybe you would have to be quite cautious. But Jupiter is supported by the stabilizing energies of Saturn right through this month. So although Jupiter goes retrograde on the 11th, Saturn emerges from his on the 28th, they are very helpful to one another. And of course, forge that wonderful angle to your ruler Mars at the start of the month. And I'm going to tell you something shortly, which is amazing for you personally, at the end of the month. But on the 12th, that combination between Mercury and your ruler Mars could make you a bit tetchy if you are discussing money. Someone sees something differently to you, or someone takes your goodwill, your value for granted. You don't agree. There's a part of you that I feel that understands there are moments in life when we have to lock in to our opponent and be actually very strong-willed. You get that understanding that at times there will be that, if you like, combat. And from that, you evolve. But on the 19th, Mercury actually inverses back into your sign. So if you do have to rethink something, perhaps around a financial matter, through to the 29th, that next 10-day period, and then Mercury goes direct, that is a brilliant opportunity for you to do that. So Mercury retrogrades can, of course, be a pain, but they can be opportunities. I think there's a lot of sentiment out there, particularly with pop astrology, about the snags, not so much about how we can work with it to reflect, reset, realign, and that is an opportunity for you. But the 20th, honestly, Scorpio, this new moon is a real beauty. The new moon in your sign is not necessarily the strongest insofar as the moon is in her fall in your sign, and therefore it mutes her energy somewhat, perhaps because of that part of you that can understand that you have to come into contact with people. But the sun here certainly can radiate out into your situation, and it links brilliantly with Jupiter and Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, Jupiter in Cancer, but critically is pretty close to Venus in your sign. So as you come to the end of this month, Venus from the 6th is certainly giving you a chance to evoke a very powerful energy which can draw someone to you, and that could show itself in the potency of that new moon. And it's all about having the confidence to be ourselves, because that's something that I feel does get diluted in this world, because it's constant comparisons, isn't it, through things like Facebook. And I think your strength of character is really important, and your strength of character can be enhanced this month. I must reassure you of that. On the 28th, Saturn goes direct. If over the last 5 months there have been times when your energy's been a bit low, when it was in Aries, or you have felt thwarted around creative projects or even your love life, going direct will help. Mercury goes direct in your sign on the 29th, so things can start to speed up. It won't come out of shadow until the 17th of December, to be honest, but on the 30th, Venus moves into a part of your chart which can be fantastic for money. As the celestial curtain comes down on November, a really genuine piece of good news could come in for you. If you are connecting to someone new, it may be that the sensuousness between you is very strong. If you enjoy good food, perhaps dancing, a dance like salsa, which is very, very physical. That could be something to enjoy if you were having a date. But seriously, Venus at the end of this month can really bless your prospects, as of course the Sun moving into Sagittarius on the 22nd. Sorry, I should have said that. And then joined by Venus. So taking the creativity and the willpower that you've shown earlier in the month and converting it into something more tangible and foundational and lasting is definitely an opportunity as November closes. With Pluto on your 4th house, Scorpio, your modern ruler, all month, yes, there is a shift about how you feel about things, about close family matters, even about where you live. Your emotional identity will be evolving for many years to come. But this is a month when you can focus a lot on what makes you uniquely you. Not everyone like it will get it, but I think a lot of people will, and by the end of the month you can get your reward. Thank you for joining me. Please check out your year 2026 Deep Dive forecast by seeing the link below, but for now, take care and goodbye.